Author Cameron Judd lives in Greene County, and over the past 30 years, he's written more than 60 Western and historical novels, all while fitting in time to work at the Greeneville Sun as a reporter and as a staff member at Tusculum College for around a decade. And he joins us this morning to tell us about a new and exciting chapter in his writing career. Cameron, it's all about ebooks these days, isn't it?
It's definitely turning in that direction.
Right.
Just a few years ago, Amazon announced publicly that they were selling more ebooks than they were printed paperback novels, at least, and so that's a definite shift.
You have to, when you're thinking about writing now, is there any difference? You just do the same things you did before when it was just all printed?
It's largely the same. You do think about maybe length there. You can do a shorter book now. There isn't the length, because you're not dealing with the printing aspect. So there are maybe some differences, but actually for the most part it's just simply going on doing what you were doing, but putting it out in a different way.
Now I have certain members of my family that love ebooks. They love to be able to sit there with a tablet and scroll through and read as they go. I'm more of an old school guy. I like to actually have a book in my hand and flip pages and dog ear it and do all of that stuff. Do you find it's the same with other? You find that with your audience as well when you're out doing book signings and things?
Yes, I did. Yeah, there's some people who, like you, prefer the traditional type of book, but most people I've found when they read a book or two on Kindle or on their tablet with the free apps that you can get to allow you to read those books, they begin to enjoy. I was the same way. When the first time I read a book on Kindle, the more I got into it, I thought, this is lightweight. Yeah. I like to read at night, when you're lying back in bed and put the book up on your chest and read. And they can get kind of heavy with it, if you have a good-sized book. But a Kindle, you can have a whole library that's right in your hands, and it reads. And the experience of reading the book is very, very similar once you begin getting into what you're reading.
And recently, you've had two of your novels that have gone to Amazon as ebooks. Crockett of Tennessee, and what's the other one?
Passage to Natchez is the other. They're both books that were published in the 90s by Bantam Books.
And I've read Crockett of Tennessee. I've not read Passage to Natchez, and I tell you, the books that I've read of yours, so enjoyable.
Thank you.
So enjoyable.
Thank you.
I mean, you get the history, and you don't take liberties with the story, but you make it more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always gaps in history, and if you're doing a novel that covers, say, an entire lifetime, such as Crockett of Tennessee does, you're going to have to find ways to fill the gaps where maybe we don't know exactly what was going on in Davy Crockett's life.
Right.
And you do that. That's where you can fictionalize. That's where the novel part of it can come in, and you can have some creativity. But what I usually try to do with characters such as that, and I did a similar book about Daniel Boone.
Right.
Is to keep the basic storyline of the life of the person accurate to history, or as close as we can get to that, and do most of the fictionalizing around that person with their surroundings and with the people who were in their lives.
Two historical figures that play such a big part in our area, Crockett and Boone. Name one thing about each one of them that when you were doing your research that you just found so interesting.
With Crockett, I think it was discovering what really kind of a humorist he was. He had a sense of humor about himself and about the people around him, and he used that. He set the example in the way that people still do political campaigning, focusing on the folksy, born in a cabin type of a thing. You still see traces of Crockett in that. For example, at one time in a political debate, as we're seeing a lot of on television these days, he was debating a man, and people in those days, sometimes the opposing candidates would travel together, stay in the same houses, and so on. And Crockett did that one night in a house with a political opponent, and the opponent had a wooden leg. And so in the middle of the night, Davy got up with got a chair, and went out on the porch, and there was a daughter of the farmer who I think was hosting them. And he went on the porch, and he slipped down the porch and clunked to the chair on the porch. It made it sound like the guy was going down toward the room where the girl was with the fellow with the wooden leg. And so which generated a lot of excitement in that household, as you can imagine.
All right, Cameron Judd, thank you
you.
so much for sharing that story. And I'll tell you what, folks, for more information, check out that website right there on the bottom of the screen. This is a treasure for our area. It's Cameron Judd, local
Thank you.
author.
Thank you, Chris.